So Unit 1 is all about relating with money. And at the start of every unit, they have a question and some different answers from kids around the country. And I usually like to take this time in class to discuss a little more. For those of you at home, the question is, have you ever witnessed money affecting a relationship close to you? You can read some of those examples. I always tell students that money fights are probably the biggest fights John and I ever get into. And so, the stat that Dave gives is that money is the #1 cause of divorce, and that's just huge. So while all of you might not end up getting married, you might want to know how different people relate to money. So different personalities and how they relate to money, and what Dave calls nerds versus free spirits. We're going to look at how men and women relate to money, how you should relate to money if you end up having kids or if you end up without kids. And those will be some of the topics that we'll delve into. One of the biggest things I want to kick off before we head into Dave and some of the notes is that you'll hear this word fiscal throughout our entire course. And fiscal is anything that has to relate to money or finances. So for example, if I say I'm fiscally conservative, it means I like to save my money. I like to spend my money at Target, but that's just an example. So Dave might say fiscal, or I might use fiscal, and that's just what that means. So now we're going to transition into listening to Dave and filling along the guided notes. When you are in person, I will be doing a lot of stopping and we'll be doing a lot of discussing. For those of you using this video for at home, I'm just going to have the words pop up as they kind of go along, and I might be able to do a little bit of stopping and explaining. But if you want the full experience, feel free to zoom into class or watch the recorded class after I post it at the end of the day.
The #1 cause of divorce in America is money problems. I know most of you watching this are not yet married and probably not even close to marriage. But as you watch this lesson, I want you to realize the important role money plays in relationships. Chances are you know someone experiencing money problems in their home. I get letters every day from students all across the country telling me they used this information that they learned in class to help their parents, their grandparents, their friends, etc. Understanding how money impacts relationships will have a big impact on your future. Enjoy the lesson.
Please welcome nationally syndicated radio host and New York Times best-selling author, Dave Ramsey.
In this lesson, we are going to be talking about relating with money. Free spirits and nerds unite. Open up your workbooks to that lesson and get ready. As you're doing that, I want to tell you an old story. I'm sure it's not true, but it's funny and it makes my point, so I'm going to use it anyway. There's a story that's told of George Bush Sr. and probably the best first lady that we've ever had, his wife Barbara. And they were campaigning their way across Texas in one of the presidential campaigns, and of course that's their home state, so they knew everybody, and the presidential limo with the SUVs and the whole bit pulls up to a gas station because it's running out of gas. And so the gas station attendant sees all of this, and he runs outside, and of course you and I don't get this service, but he runs outside and he starts pumping gas because he wants to say he's pumped the gas in the presidential limo. Well, Barbara looks up and recognizes the guy, jumps out of the car, runs around the car, gives him a big hug. They stand back there, yak it up for a little while. And she gets back in the car in a few minutes, and George says, "Who was that?" And she said, "Well, that was my old boyfriend in high school." And George gets this big grin on his face, and he said, now let me get this straight. You are married to the most powerful man in the world, the president of the leading economic force in the world, the United States of America. You could have married him, and then you'd be the wife of a gas station attendant. And she said, "Oh, George, don't be silly. If I had married him, he'd be president." When we're dealing with money in relationships, when we're dealing with money in our personal lives, when we're dealing with money in our families, the flow of money in a family represents the value system under which that family operates. Larry Burkett used to say it's kind of the checkbook autobiography. Back in the days when we used to keep a checkbook, or if you keep it on Quicken or something, if you look at your checkbook register, where your money goes tells us what's important to you, tells you what's important to you. And men and women are different in how we process this stuff. We're different in how we process everything, and money is no exception to that statement. Gary Smalley says men love to share facts. Women love to share feelings. Men connect by doing things. Guys go hunting together. We do things together. We work on the car together. We do whatever. We do things together. Women connect by talking. Guys can hang out all day. My son and I drove 2.5 hours after a football game home and didn't say a word, and we were perfectly okay with that. Women would have thought that was psychotic. We operate differently. We're perfectly okay with these differences too. Dennis Rainey, who is a Christian family counselor, marriage counselor, has a wonderful radio show. He says that women and men have a different verbal level. Men speak 30 to 50,000 words a day. Women speak somewhere from 50 to 70,000 words a day, with gusts up to 125,000. We are different. Gary Smalley says men tend to be controlling. Women tend to remain agreeable. Women would say amen. Men tend to be independent. Women tend to be interdependent. When it comes to going shopping, men get good deals by negotiating. I can go in, I want those deals. I want to go out there and I'm just going to walk through the electronics store, the furniture store, and I'm going to kill everybody in the store until I get a good deal. I don't have to go shopping. I'm just going to drop an atom bomb on that one place. I'm going in there, I'm going to go, I want a deal, right? And I'm going to use all my techniques, and I'm going to get in people's face. I'm going to do whatever. I'm going to negotiate. I'm going to get a deal. We get good deals by, a lot of times, just straight old-fashioned confrontation, where ladies tend to get good deals by hunting and hunting and hunting and hunting and hunting and hunting. And they forgot what they were looking for, but they're still hunting. And Smalley talks about this. He says, here's kind of how a shopping trip looks like for most people. We get out of the car and we go to this mall together, and we're going somewhere. We're going to go get something together, right? And the guy gets out of the car and says, identify the target. We're going to get our handheld GPS and map out the quickest way to the store. And we're going to go straight to the store with the best deal, having searched on the web while we're on our way for efficiency. And we get in there, we get the best deal, we analyze which line is going the fastest, and in the cash register we get in line, we go through the most efficient line, we're back to the car, let's time it, go, click. Identify the target. And the lady goes, whoa, you just don't get this, do you? See, we're supposed to enjoy this process. It's not just about the task, it's the process. We have to go in every store. We have to touch everything in every store. We have to try a whole lot of it on, buy most of it, discuss the checkout girl's family problems with her as we're going out, and then tomorrow we're going to bring most of it back. When it comes to financial problems, we see the difference in men and women. When we're struggling financially, if you're hurting and you're stressed out, you're behind on the bills, the guys lose self-esteem. Men lose self-esteem because money represents a scorecard to men. So ladies, listen carefully. If you're in here and you're married or you're in a marriage situation and you're struggling financially, your guy does not feel like Sir Galahad right now. His sword is a little rusty. He has some moss on his armor. And the last thing he needs in the middle of that is a barking chihuahua around his ankles. Mama said, he may find one last use for that sword. Guys, you need to look at this. When you're in financial trouble, women face fear. Sharon made us change it. She said the word is terror. Because money with ladies, as we said, represents security. There's that security gland. So if you're in here and you're struggling financially, don't let the stress of those financial things take your marriage. Guys, you need to step up. She needs an extra 3 to 6 non-sexual hugs a day. Some of you guys need to look up non-sexual. This is touch that's not going anywhere. Touch for the purpose of reassurance. Touch that says, when we got married, we didn't have anything. If we go back to not having anything, that'll be okay as long as I'm with you.
So now that we've delved into the differences between men and women change the way they deal with money, we're going to go into types of personality. Now, Dave has two types of personality that he's going to talk about: free spirits versus nerds. So in this slide in your notes, you're going to do a little self-evaluation to figure out what you are. Are you a free spirit or are you a nerd? So you're going to look at the check boxes. It doesn't matter which side they're on right now. And you're just going to check off whichever ones you are. So for example, I would check off for myself that I'm creative, I like to follow the rules, I'm pretty organized, I'm kind of late, and I'm pretty slow and steady when I'm making decisions. Once you have your sides checked off, you're going to tally how many you have in the free spirit side and how many you have on the nerd side. So I have 2 in the free spirit and I have 3 in the nerd. So overall, I tend to be more of what Dave calls a nerd, and we're going to look at that in a second. Some of you may be perfectly in the middle. And let's delve deeper into the differences between free spirits and nerds and how they relate to money.
Now, typically, not only do opposites attract in the sense of men and women are different, but opposites attract in other things too. One of you is late for everything, and the other one is on time. Have to be on time for everything. You have to be early for everything. One of you was up at 6 o'clock in the morning going, we have to get over there, we want to get a good seat. We have to get over there. I want to get a good parking place. Did you see the parking? Oh, I've got to get a good seat. And the other one's going, look, they're not going to really say anything important for the first hour anyway. Back and forth, opposites attract. One of you is a spender, one of you is a saver. And that's a good thing. You need each other. You spenders need a saver in your life so you don't retire and have to buy that cookbook, 72 Ways to Prepare Alpo, and love it. You savers need a spender in your life so you have a life. And typically what happens is the nerd, the one that is very organized, you know, the detail person, the underwear drawer is folded, must be on time, everything has a place, really enjoys for the bills to be paid on time. Late, oh, don't give me a late charge. Oh. So the nerd likes doing the budget. It gives them this sense of power, this sense of control. Some nerds are real big-time control freaks, but all nerds are at least a little bit a control freak. You know what I'm saying? All right, and the free spirit is the one that they don't feel cared for. We nerds think we're caring for everyone. The free spirit instead feels controlled. They feel told what to do. The free spirit is like, how many of you in here are free spirits? Raise your hand. See, they always start a wave. Woohoo! You know. They didn't hesitate. Yeah, baby, we're free spirit. Yeah, when's the break? Give me some refreshments. I'm a free spirit. You know, I'm sure glad this thing's funny. I was afraid it was going to be boring. You know, this is the free spirit, right? And the free spirit, they're mature. They're adults too. They just believe in having a thing called a life. They don't really get a high out of 3-generation spreadsheets. They don't understand. You know. They don't want to click the 3rd tab over, and they don't want to spend hours and hours and hours looking at the details. And we're just all this Clash of the Titans going on. And it doesn't make for a high-quality marriage. As a matter of fact, we just said this, it's the #1 cause of divorce. As opposites attract, and men and women are different anyway, when you put all of that in the soup with money, it makes a mess. But we figured out a way to solve it. It's called the budget committee meeting. It's your only hope for learning how to communicate.
So at this point in class, what I usually do is split up our nerds and our free spirits. And if we have any of those wonderfully balanced people in the middle, I send them half and half. And I let them come up with what they think a budget committee meeting should look like. So the budget committee meeting is where the nerd and the free spirit are going to get together and figure out how the money should be spent. And so this is really funny because normally when we come back, the nerds, when they're talking about how often, they're like, oh, we got to do it every day, or we got to do it like every week, or all that. They have all these reasons, and it's usually very, very often and for a very long time. When they talk about how long, they're like, probably an hour, maybe longer. We're just gonna have to talk about it for as long as it takes. And then I compare and contrast with the free spirits who are like, well, who cares? Like 5 minutes, like maybe we should meet like once a year. I don't know. So it's really funny to see. Overall, we're looking for a happy medium when we talk about the budget committee meeting. So Dave would say that our budget committee meeting should happen once a month. And the reason we say once a month is because when we get to doing a budget, Most bills run on a monthly cycle. So we look for once a month so we can look over, hey, how did our month's spending go? And then adjust that way. And when we talk about how long the budget committee should be, we only want 10 to 30 minutes. Anywhere after 30 minutes and you're going to lose the free spirit. Trust me, this has happened. John is a total free spirit. I'm a total nerd. The first time we tried to do this, I had my spreadsheet with a bajillion tabs and it was like 2 hours and I lost John after like 10 minutes. So 10 to 30 minutes is a good length of time where we can stay invested but not get too winded. The first budget committee meeting might take a while to set your budget. And so if you need to break that up into chunks, do that. Then we took a look at where should we have this. Now the nerds, they're like, oh, on the couch. Maybe we should go to a restaurant. Like, how does Buffalo Wild Wings sound? And the free spirits are like, we need to have this in a classroom. We need to do this. And so again, we're looking for a happy medium here. We want some place comfortable, but that's not distracting. So John and I have a couple different options. We do ours. Sometimes we'll go at the kitchen table where we have somewhere where we can lay out some of our papers and write. Sometimes we're like, you know what? We can sit on the couch, but we might have our laptops with us. We both agree that we're not going to have any electronics. Sometimes we're like, for sure, we might need some snacks while we're doing this. Comfortable, but away from distractions. So not a Buffalo Wild Wings. And then finally, there are a couple specific rules. Each person, both the nerd and the free spirit, needs to come with some idea of what they want to budget for, or at the very least, their value system. So remember, the flow of money represents our values. We're going to spend money. When we talk about flow, that's money that comes into our house and goes out of our household in terms of flow. We're going to spend that money on what we value. So if I was showing you John and my budget, one of the things we sit down and we do is we each take a list of paper and we say, hey, here are the things that we really want to spend money on. And so mine's over here on the left, John's is over here on the right. We each have our own list of value systems, and then we come together and we say, okay, if we look at both of those sides of things, how can we merge those? How can we compromise? What do we both have on there that we might want? And maybe we haven't considered something that the other person has. And so we both need to have input on what gets spent. And that's a huge, huge, huge point of contention. John and I totally failed the first time we did a budget because I failed, honestly. I was the nerd. I came with the spreadsheet. It was great. And I was like, okay, we're going to do this, 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 this. And John's like, oh yeah, sounds great. Sweet, we're done. Awesome. And then I got all mad when John went out and was spending a ton of money on eating out, and I had only budgeted $100 for him. And I was like, what the heck? Well, that was something that he valued. Or when I was going out and spending like $200 on fall pillow decorations, and John's like, what the heck? I thought we only needed like $20 to buy toilet paper. So our values, we needed to adjust certain categories based on those values. So you have to discuss and you have to come with an agreement on those things.
You have to get in the game and place your vote. You both have a vote. We come into agreement. That's called unity. Both place their vote. No, just...
You're smarter than me. You take care of it. I'm going to go over here and mess up your plan, though.
No, you've got to place your vote, and then when the budget is done, we pinky swear and we spit shake, and this is a lock, baby. We don't do anything except what's on the budget. That is a promise. That's a contract. And if we're going to do something different than what's on that budget, we have to come back and have an emergency budget committee meeting.